We've got a wonderful doctor. Can we please give a warm welcome to our first talker of the day? Here we go, Dr. Michael.
People at the back,
Hello.
can you hear me? People at the... Can I have my presentation, please? There we go. That's me in the middle. That picture was taken 50 years ago. That's why I look like that. So in little printed, Dr. Michael, that's me. I call myself Dr. Michael because I really am a doctor, but also to individualize myself from all the other millions of Michaels that walk the planet. And I've got a Dutch surname, Visser, so I thought I will probably be the only Michael Visser in Australia. No. I used to get phone calls all the time. Are you my second cousin? I don't think you are. The surname Visser is very, very popular in the Netherlands, about a third of the phone book. Anyway, let's start this session, and I have named it Everyday Miracles because I have designed a course called Everyday Miracles. And I was just talking to a nutritionist before, and she was really grateful for the information that I shared with her. So my mission in life was really to find a way how we can heal ourselves in an effortless way, and even almost instantly. And I will show you 4 short accounts of people who had a near-death experience and were instantly healed in that moment. No techniques, no methods, no chemicals, nothing. Were healed instantaneously because they remembered who they truly were. So let's meet what have I put here. So I'm not going to tell you my entire life story because we will be here forever. And my life story is really not who I am truly. But I went to university, got a PhD in medicine, and became a learning and development expert. But I also had profound life experiences. So I had near-death experiences and a Kundalini awakening, if you ever heard of that. It's a term from the Indian kind of traditions. And what they did was they told me to embrace a miracle-minded way of life. So hopefully by the end of this talk, that will start making sense to me, what I mean with that. But for me, the most simple way of explaining a miracle is it's something that happens without you actually having to do anything for it. It just happens. It's a miracle. Where I live in Brisbane, in our apartment building, there was a lady, and the owners, she was renting her apartment. The owners wanted to charge more rent and basically told her to leave the apartment. And she's a single mum. Her kid is like 15 or something. He needs lots of food, even in the middle of the night, a big meal. Anyway, in Brisbane, if you want to find a new rental place, it's really, really hard. A lot of people come and say, here's 6 months or 12 months rent in advance, which you couldn't do. Or they offer to pay more rent that's advertised. And so she had only about a few days to go. She was lying in bed. It's like, I better enjoy these last moments that I have a bed and a cozy doona over me. And then she drove by sort of older building with a crappy sign, and suddenly the sign started blinking at her, and it looked beautiful, and it was apartments for rent. So she went on the property, and at the back was actually a doctor's office, and she knocked on the door, and he said, "What's that sign mean?" She said, no. I'm a developer, I've got 20 units available, 4 stories, the rent was good, we don't need to see your references. If you can pay 2 weeks rent up front, you've got it, you're in it. So it was a total miracle, not because he did anything for it, or else the universe just happened. So that's what I want to talk about, a miracle-minded way of living. So a little bit more about myself, but I was very much into sports, so I worked with athletes, we worked with prisoners, people who are terminally ill, everyday individuals. I applied a diverse range of modalities. But finally, the near-death experience gave me the truth that I was looking for, and it still continued to guide my work today. Just a few little things, so you can see miracles happen around me. So at the age of 11, I witnessed a bird return from death. It basically flew into the sliding doors at my parents' home I was living, and it was really dead, and our cat was petting it, hopefully, come on, do something, want to play with you. Absolutely dead. So I wanted to save it from sheer destruction from the cat, so I picked it up, held it in my hands, Didn't know what to do, so I was just walking around with it. And after about 10 minutes, the bird came back alive. And after about a few minutes, I just flew away. So it was a total resurrection. Not that I did anything for it, or I wasn't, channeling whoever or whatever. And something similar happened. I was 39 and I was in Brasilia, in Abadiânia in Brazil. Have you been to John of God? João de Deus, and I don't speak Portuguese, but it's something similar, John of God. I've worked with him, lots of miracle healings happened. And also we worked with Ruben Faria, who was the third person as a medium to channel Dr. Fritz. Dr. Fritz was a German physician in the First World War, and he stayed around and he found medium channels in Brazil and performed lots of miracle healings. And then with my wife, Ray, we ran a Miracles Healing Center in Wisconsin of the United States for 7 years. Okay, I'm now going to share what it means to be miracle-minded. So, together, because I like to do things together, let's explore the power of transformation. And with transformation, I mean undoing. So it's undoing all of the experiences you have accumulated over your lifetime or even other lifetimes. I know people speak here about past lives. I don't use that word because from my experience, all time goes on all the time. So the lifetime that happened in 1300 is happening from out of time at the same time, similar to the ones that are going to happen in the future. Have you heard of Nostradamus? Yeah, so Nostradamus saw things happening in the so-called future. So we could see the Second World going on in, I think it was 1400 or something, because all time goes all the time. When your mind breaks open, then there's really not a limitation to what you can experience or where you can be or what you want to do. So at the bottom of this, the page, I've put a statement from Carl Jung. Have you heard of Carl Jung? Psychiatrist, psychologist. He had a near-death experience as well, and in his near-death experience, he noticed it's like the human mind, for most of it, is unconscious. Meaning, even though you're listening to me, for at least 80% of your brain's activity is going on about other things. But we call it subconscious or unconscious because our brain wants us to focus what's right in front of us, because otherwise the lion will come and have us for breakfast, and that's not really a good idea. So, but if you don't do that, that part of your mind with all the information and beliefs and conventions that are in there will run you. You will think it's fate, but it's actually your own mind running the show that's in your mind. It doesn't do anything of itself. It does only do what is in there. So here's a lady just talking about her near-death experience very quickly. And we used to have sound, but maybe not. I'll just go back, I think.
So I wouldn't say it was like projected on a wall or a movie screen opened up. It was more like I just could access it. And it was exactly what people talk about with the life review, in that I saw most of my life going by like a movie. I saw good and bad. And one of the things that really stuck with me that I want to share with you is about bad people. Why do bad things happen? Why is there evil? I had a good childhood growing up. I had a lot of happy moments. My parents were, good parents for the most part, but my father was abusive. He had probably what most people would describe as a sexual addiction, and he took that out on me. And in that life review, then I was able to see that we plan our lives, and this is very hard to hear for a lot of people. We planned that. If you want to look at another story, Betty Guadagno talks about this as well. We planned to play what could be described as good and evil, right? So he went to Earth to learn things. His soul went there because it wanted to experience certain things which would make his soul stronger and consequently make all of us stronger, because we're all one. And I went there to serve in a space where I could make that happen for him. So I could put myself in a space where he could do what he needed to do to grow his soul, to grow our souls, and likewise the same thing for me. So that helped me understand that situation so much better when I was able to access that memory of that life review experience when I came back to Earth. And then as the life review is coming to an end, I'm realizing, because here's another really interesting thing about good and evil and all of that, right? So I've left my human body, and when we're in our human bodies, we're under the veil and we have these expectations which are very different than when you go home. Because like I was just talking about, if I planned a life where I agreed to be used, which seems so strange on this side, that's a really good view into how we are thinking so differently on the other side. So here I am in this life review, and the only person who judges you, the only entity that judges you on the other side is you. So the only person judging me is me. Every other entity around me, every other soul, every other person is so loving and compassionate and, holding me and cheering me on for going through these things. But I'm still chastising myself about these choices I made because I'm still partially connected with my human body, with my human self. Angela's still in there. And as I'm chastising myself, I'm thinking, well, on Earth, we're told if we don't do things right, we're supposed to go to purgatory or hell or something like that. Maybe I should do that. And Melanie, because it's all telepathic, is at the exact same time thinking, wait, no, you are a very good person and we love you and we support you, and right, all in the same moment, right? Just like when I was in the hospital room and it's all happening instantaneously.
Okay. So you can see the insight you can gain from that story is that if you go, things are happening to me outside of my own choices and outside of my own decisions, then I'm actually in a position where I'm really weak and helpless and I can not do anything about the situation that I'm in. So the steps that she was describing is, number one, remember your true self. And you will actually see it's like, no, it was me, my true self, that made the choices of these particular things happening to me. That also then puts you in the place where you can choose again. And if you don't want that experience anymore, you can say like, okay, thanks very much, mind, for organizing this for me, but I had enough, and that's it. But you have to own your own life and the things that happen in it. Otherwise, you then place the power outside of yourself and nothing can change. You can pray to God till the cows comes home, but no one can interfere with cause and effect. So if you make a decision, no one can tamper with it. No one external. It has to come from you. Okay. Here's another story that I thought I'd show you. And this sort of continues
bit
on.
of maybe my time on the other side, the near-death experience that I had when I was 29 years old. I'm 37. That was caused actually from a plant called water hemlock. For those of you that don't know what water hemlock is, it's a poisonous plant, one of the most poisonous plants in North America. To this date, I am the only known survivor that I've communicated with or that anybody's ever introduced me to that has had an interaction with this plant and come back from that with an experience. The plant was created basically like numbness in my peripheral nervous system, which then suffocated me to death. But in all aspects, it was a blessing because what I realized is from the other side of it, what life really is and that we actually don't die. What I have to say about that experience is that the more we struggle to live is the more actually we feel pain when it comes to dying. And what death has taught me is that the more we surrender to this life that we have in embracing all of our challenges and our insecurities and our suffering and our pain, the less pain, resistance, and suffering we actually really do tangibly experience in this physical body. And for some of us, that might seem really lofty and ridiculous to say, like, we can't feel pain in this body anymore. But it's not that we don't feel pain, it's that we carry a new perspective about pain that actually liberates us from a lot of the lessons or difficulties actually that God wants to show us in our life. Because God is actually showing us what we need to learn in this life about life and love itself through these experiences with.
Okay, so she learned from her near-death experience to be inclusive and accept your challenges and then approach it with a new perspective so you can actually transform through that and see it as something positive that's helping you to grow rather than something that's holding you down and you have no power over it. All right, so I called it Unite Human Frailty with the Strength of Source. Let's have a look.
You were saving me and now I'm dying. And they started to talk to me as I was moving through what it felt like time and space into this tunnel. And Archangel Michael was the one who I felt was doing most of the talking. And he was starting to show me the experiences in my life and my mindset. I felt that I was right back in the mindset or in the emotional experience of this hard time I was going through. And at the same time, he was showing me the higher meaning and the higher purpose around it. And he said, you are not defined by your thoughts and feelings. You are not your mind. You are an unlimited, omnipotent being. You are unlimited consciousness. And we are bestowing upon you this miraculous healing, this divine intervention, so that you can see the power that you have, because you are one part of a whole of this unlimited consciousness, which is source. And as he was talking to me, I could see that they were performing this miraculous healing by what it felt like was energy going into my lungs. And they were asking me to release my guilt, to release my sorrow, to release my anger. I had gone through a divorce and I was remarried, but I had a lot of guilt around my divorce. I had a lot of shame around my financial situation that I was in at that moment. I wasn't able to take care of my children fully. I had to ask for help. And so I had stored all this emotional trauma in my chest. It must have been part of the asthma that I was feeling. And they were asking me to release. And they were asking me to receive. And then they started to tell me that I am not my body, that I am boundless, that we are all boundless, that we are all unlimited, again, in consciousness, and that our true essence is this unlimited state of consciousness, this omnipotent power that we have within us that is source. And then he started to tell me that now I'm going to become one with source, become one with God, so that I could feel what it was like to actually be the source that I stem from, that I am part of, that is within me, that we are all connected to. And so as he was explaining.
So very powerful story again. And the inside there, you can see is there's two levels of consciousness, and I talked about it yesterday. So when you're your true self and you're in this unlimited, unbounded consciousness, you cannot really live on planet Earth. You cannot be in these two worlds, so to speak. But you can feel connected with your source as you still go through your human life in linear time, in space and time. And that will give you an immense more powerful position to deal with all the challenges that you are, including experiencing miraculous instantaneous healings or miraculous events happening in your life. This is my last example, and this is a bloke from the Gold Coast. So let's see what he experienced.
It was like I was just floating. I couldn't see a body. Like I didn't have a body, and I didn't see a white. You know how people say like you have a tunnel. There was no tunnel. I didn't see anyone. I didn't see any people. I was just floating, and I felt so good, really, that I got rid of all this stuff behind me that's on this earth. You know, all my problems suddenly went away. Everything had gone. The stress I had with my ex-partner, you know, and the dealings with her cult and all the rest of it. It's like, oh, I could just be me in that space.
Okay. The stories go on and on. But I hope you can agree that if you look at these stories, and there's millions of them, so they often reveal profound shifts in perspective. Look at life completely different, and it can inspire happiness and healing. A lot of near-death experiences talk about a deep sense of interconnectedness, unconditional love, a heightened appreciation for how simple life really, really is. And when you stand in your wholeness, when you recognize who you truly are, you become naturally resilient. So it's not like titanium that people can shoot bullet guns at you, because they will go through you, but it's more like Teflon. So I'm not part of a church, I'm not religious, but I've been with lots of Christian people. And for example, they talk about Jesus was living with the Essenes in the desert, and I've been to Israel, there's plenty of desert available, so you can go into. For me, it's more metaphorically speaking, you go to a quiet place where you cannot be interfered with, and you draw your circle and you say, I'm not going to move, I want to have a conscious experience of my true self. And as the story goes in the Bible, we're all created in the likeness or the image of God, so he wants to be that. So then you get that voice in the Bible say, devil, I've spoken to priests from Israel, and they say it's a poor translation. They use the word adversary, and it was translated in the James Bible as the devil. But it's just that little voice that goes in your head that goes like, oh yeah, mate, you feel you're powerful? Why don't you just jump in the ravine and see how you go? Or maybe wrestle with a lion and see how you survive. And that's not really the power that we talk about. We talk about the power of consciousness and bringing in the experiences that you ask for, not to be a titanium. And not everything under the sky can be healed. Like, if people are drinking, driving, and they hit a tree and they're paralyzed from the waist down, I have never seen that miraculously healed. But if you have a cancer cell, that can be brought back into alignment. If you have endocrine organs problems, it can be brought back into alignment. So it depends on what illness you suffer from, it can be reversed. And you saw these people that they're in their experience and they're healed just like in that instant. They didn't sit there meditating or praying to a statue, saying, Holy Mother of God, do this and that for me. No, it was just gone. There's no room for that kind of stuff when you're on the other side and you're in that experience of universal love. Universal love means not like, I'm going to love everyone. It means it's all-inclusive. Everything is included. In the work of Course in Miracles, there's the curriculum of the Holy Spirit. And it will say, like, to have all, give all to all. So basically, you have to be inclusive. What's true for you is true for everyone. And to experience it, you need to give it. If you don't give it, you won't receive it. So we say like, if you walk into a room, you say, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. It's only because you didn't bring whatever you were expecting to be there. You have to always bring it back to yourself. You're in control. You ask for certain things. So I say, abandon living in expectation, but live in anticipation. Hey, it's a beautiful day. If I go shopping with my wife and she looks for the particular black shoes with a particular heel and a little zipper and a clasp, and that's their expectation, she's probably not having a great shopping day. Whereas I go along and there's people singing on the streets, I listen to them and they make me joyful, and I see a gelati shop and I have to, she's going like, no, I don't do that. Right, so I hope you get the drift of what I'm saying. Okay, so the last 17 minutes. On this course I've developed, where you can actually undergo this stuff and you can train your own mind to go back to its original true self, being all-powerful. So I put it in a way like there's a principle, then there's an aspect of self-awareness, then you have to be opening doors to new possibilities, and then the final step is the transformation, is the undoing of all the stuff you no longer want. It's a little bit how our governments work. So they usually have an act. Have you ever tried to read an act? It goes on and on and on and on. It's all very principled. So in a simple way, they could say like, no speeding in the suburbs. But if it stops like that, then you go like, I don't think 80 kilometers per hour is an acceptable speed, because if it goes slower, I fall asleep, so it's not safe for me to go any slower. So an act then is followed by a regulation where someone says like, it's 50 or 60 kilometers per hour. That's the speed limit. And that's all fine and good, but who's going to listen to that? So then you need what's called a code of behavior of how can we nudge people to actually keep to the speed limit. So we put speed bumps in and speed signs, and we have police people with a gun. If you speed, we'll fine you, and hopefully that's a deterrent, so you keep within that behavior. So you need to govern your own mind to go that way. If you don't, then you live by fate, and you're not living in control. So a miracle principle. What I do in my course, I map all your mental and emotional blocks that obstruct your connection with Source. And I use mind mapping. It's a very easy thing. Anyone can do it. If you've never heard of it, Google it. There's plenty of pages that will explain it. And journaling, because that's how you become aware of your own thoughts. And there's this term of being on the mark. Now, that's a Christian term, really, from Jesus, where in Aramaic there was an archery term, so when you pull your bow and you point at the bullseye, you're on the mark. If you deviate, you lost it. And that was translated in the King James Bible as you were a sinner, and it was attached, you were very guilty. All Jesus was saying, like, no, you lost track. You're off the mark. You need to be on the mark. You need to stay in that connection with your own divine true self, and things will go in a different direction. So self-awareness, I use behavioral economics. I don't know if you've heard of that. It has listed about 176 biases and heuristics. And these are shortcuts your mind takes to make decisions all of the time. Most people are not aware that they even have a single one of them, but they've mapped 176, and there's probably more of them. So I've mentioned here 3 ones, which are biggies. The confirmation bias, have you heard of that? Yeah. You try to convince people you should be a fan of the Brisbane Broncos, and it is a hard, no, I'm staying with the Sharks. When did they win the grand final? I don't know, in the last millennium maybe. But, it's like that. The more you try to convince someone that they should change their mind, usually the more they become invested in their own belief systems. So proving a point is usually a very draining exercise on your own behalf, and the effect is usually the opposite of what you try to reach. But truly, you should support the Brisbane Broncos. The optimism bias, right? So you can talk to people, like when COVID was happening, now you should wear a mask. And then people were like, yeah, that's a really good thing. But on my own account, I don't think I should wear a mask myself because I don't get COVID, I've never been sick in my life, I shouldn't have to do this, and blah, blah, blah. It's called the optimism bias. Everyone drives in traffic. All the statistics are there's so many deaths, in particular during school holidays, but no one really thinks of that because it's not going to happen to you. It's called the optimism bias. So it's similar, like when I advocate you need to go through your transformation to be really in the power of your own mind, people say, yeah, it's a good idea, but I don't have to do that because it's the optimism bias. I'm beyond that. The Dunning-Kruger effect, have you heard of that? Probably not. So this is when people know a little bit about something and then claim they know it all. Like, I meet so many people that are experts in neuroscience, and I said, well, most people that are experts in neuroscience that I know, they've done their doctoral degree, being named a PhD. Most people who would PhD spend 80 hours a week for 6 years, so you don't see them for 6 years, doing their PhD studies, and they need to publish and do all that kind of stuff. And you speak to those people, and they're usually a bit like, well, from a neuroscientific point of view, it could be this, could be that. I have my own biases, of course, so when you ask me that question, it's filtered by my own biases. What is the real answer? I don't know. But with the Dunning-Kruger effect, you find there's people who are experts. And now with social media, it becomes even worse because they ask AI to write their stuff for it. I was speaking with nutritionists before. There's so much nonsense going around. I was speaking with Paul, and the original thing on the website was, we're going to raise consciousness. So I said to Paul, how do you raise consciousness? And how do you measure that? Because consciousness is not located. It's not like that spot, it's there now, and now let's raise it up to the podium. You can do that with massive bodies, but you can't do it with consciousness. And to consciousness itself, all thoughts are thoughts. There's no difference. It doesn't say this is a bad or a good thought. You can just go to the thought store, and in your body has DNA, and say, I want that thought and that experience, and your mind goes, okay, here you go. There it is. It doesn't judge good or bad, doesn't know what to do with it, because that's what consciousness is. It's thoughts, it's nothing else. So last one there, giving and receiving are the same in truth. So I've mentioned that before. If you want to experience something, you need to give it, and that's what you're receiving is at the same time. And my talk yesterday, I really went into how is now new sciences that really speak about the idea that the entire cosmos is wise, but it wants to come to know itself, and we all play a part in expressing whatever the potential is that Source or God has already created and now live out. And it is indeed nothing new under the horizon, but what we can do is improve the experience. So, for example, Edison, I think it was, he invented a recorder of sound, and then you could play it back on a big vinyl disc and a gramophone, and it was mono sound. And then someone said, what if we do stereo sound? So you can have a left speaker and a right speaker, and it sounds so much better and natural. And then it went to Dolby 5.1 to Dolby 7.1, and now we have Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision. And it's still sound and vision. It's nothing new. It's only the experience of reproducing has become so much more sophisticated and hopefully more enjoyable. So that's the self-awareness part. I've got 9 minutes, I think. Possibilities. So you are not a body, there is no death, and ideas leave not their source. So if you accept that your mind is all powerful and you truly get what you ask for, not as a great Friday night in the pub sort of groovy things to talk about, and you all agree on that, and then you do the YouTube video and you listen to it and your life's going to change, all the millions of dollars are going to come to you, and it doesn't happen. No. It's similar people who believe in Christianity. Somehow Jesus has said, where two or more of you have gathered, that's where I am. Well, if that's just a concept in your mind, you're not stepping in your power, nothing is happening. So we have 1, 2, we're in the more category. Is anyone experiencing Jesus Christ right now in the mind? Probably not, because it's just a statement, it doesn't mean anything. So you get to learn that your analytical mind that you speak from is just that. It's conceptual, it's intellectual, it gathers data, but it's not where the power of your mind is. You really need to come into that other transcendent level. All right. And the last step is that of the transformation. So I've got 33 chapters in my course, this first chapter, but if you can release the need to prove a point and redirect your focus from try to gain external validation. Look, I know something new that no one else knows. No, that's not true. Everyone somewhere knows everything. It saves you a lot of energy. Mind mapping the thoughts that you experience at negative. Has anyone ever mind mapped? No? So basically you take a sheet of paper, you put a word in the middle, and then you just write down on the paper all the thoughts that come up and float through your mind. And you get a good idea. Oops, this is my mind. No wonder if I need another coffee by 9 o'clock because this doesn't look good. And you can then actually start associating with those thoughts. You go like, okay, no. Thank you, mind, for keeping all that, but I don't want that anymore. Let go. Your mind is very willing to cooperate with you, but you need to govern it. Okay? Set clear boundaries. So a lot of people are afraid of that. Particularly if you have a strong Anglo-Saxon background. You know the Monty Python movies, and one arm is chopped off and the other arm is chopped off, and then the legs go, oh, shall I bring you to hospital? No, it's just a scratch. Thank you, you're so kind. It's like that. But setting clear boundaries is very, very important. So you start communicating your needs effectively. So if someone tries to tell you what to do, you say, thank you very much for wanting to be helpful. So you're always thankful because it's a gift. And you accept that gift, so you keep the energy going. But you say, to be honest, I like to be in control of how I divide my day and how I plan and what I do. So please, from now on, stop doing that. It's very polite, but you clearly start expressing your needs. At least you respecting yourself. And if you respect yourself, you will see it actually rubs off. Other people actually start respecting you as a self-respecting person. It saves you lots of personal energy. It prioritizes that you care about yourself and you focus on what truly matters. And the last bit of transformation I have there is cultivate a mindset that fosters clarity and peace. You naturally will start radiating positivity, influencing relationships and environment. And to give you one example, my wife and I were in the green room, which where the speakers live in between presentations, and I'm speaking with some nutritionists, and she came back especially to tell me, she said, "Thank you for sharing your insight. And I believe every word you say." I say, "Oh, thank you very much." And I said, "How is that about?" She said, "Both you and your wife, you have really wide eyes, so I know you eat the right foods and you're doing the right thing, and this is why I trust you." Met that person 5 minutes ago. And it's not saying that, "Oh, look at me, I'm so special." But I'm saying it's like, if you are very clear, you're at peace with yourself, which also means people can tell you anything, like, you this, you're that, and you're bad, and blah, 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 and you go, "Thank you very much for informing me about that." So is that who I am? Thank you very much. Yeah. In Hawaii they have the ho, no, po, no, so, no, lots of O's in it. So you say, "Thank you very much. Please forgive you. I love you. See you later." Yeah. Forgiveness was another poor translation for the Aramaic. It was basically an idea of like, if someone is not in connection with their true self, you think of them as being confused because they're walking around only with their analytical mind, which is all over the shop. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, blah, blah, blah. Let's have a few drinks. Let's take chemicals so we can sleep. Let's take chemicals so we can wake up. Let's take a few other chemicals, caffeine, whatever it is, so we can get through the day. Very confused because they have no clarity of who they are, where they want to go, and just to be open to the universe, just to have a new experience, not only to learn themselves, but to enrich the entire consciousness, because we're all one. That's happening. So I've got 3 minutes. If you want to ask a quick question, you may. We'll have a microphone with Julie. Otherwise, I will hang around stage 1. There's a booth for the speakers. You can ask me questions. I've got QR codes, so there's a whole free part on my website. I've got 40 different near-death experiences, so you can listen to that. This presentation and yesterday's presentation are also on the website. You can do that at a time that's suitable for you, where your mind feels good for it, at a time that's good for you. So if there's no questions? No? You don't really want to know how you can become a loyal Brisbane Broncos supporter? No. The offer was there, it might not be there tomorrow. No. Okay, well, thank you very much. And Daniela, you have... Thank you.
I've got a question. I've got a question.
Here's Daniela.
What is one tip you would give if you met somebody in an elevator? You had to give them one tip that would transform them.
Okay. I would say, I'm not a very wise person, but there is a person that lived in Ireland, Wild, I think his name was, Oscar. And he said, "Be yourself, because everyone else is already taken."
Beautiful. Big round of applause for this lovely man sharing some air with us today.